Thanks, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today because just for the story, 4 years ago, my previous startup, we just started here, and we were one of the first startups welcomed by the family in 2015. So it's very special for me to be here today and to get back to the team and this magical space. So, and thank you for being here today. So we will talk about gamification. Actually, I'm passionate about gaming. I'm not a gamer, but I like to learn what's inside a game and what can create so much engagement towards gamers. That's what interests me. And I made it my full-time job with UP, or you can pronounce it UP in Swedish. It means mobile app in ancient Viking language. And we do build gamified solutions for businesses. So the first one we created was called Pick Me Up. That's the one we created from here. And we sold it 1 year after to a CRM company. It was a sales animation gamified tool for salespeople, like a Nike Plus or Runkeeper, but for sales guys. We launched last year something called Hunters, which is our main app for the moment. It's a referral game for employees. So when you want to hire a new candidate in a company, you can use Hunters, you become a headhunter, and you have you have points, levels, and an objective to reach to get as much candidates as you can for the company. It works very well. And the last one we are releasing, it will be for next month, called Business Royale. It's a quiz game for companies, so you can create, as a human resources director, as a sales director, you can create as many quizzes as you want, and you can customize them related to the trainings, to the content you want to provide to your employees. So it's like Quiz Up or Duel Quiz, maybe you know those famous games, but for businesses. Okay, that's a short word about what we are doing. I like to start with this sentence. I checked, so it's attributed to Plato, but it's not him who told it, but never mind. It's true. So you can learn much more about somebody in 1 hour of game instead of 1 year of conversation. Why? Because a game is a very accurate personality test. In a game, you will reveal yourself very easily. If you like competition, I will know it after 30 minutes. If you don't like competition, if you're against competition, I will know it after 30 minutes. Just to tell you a story, one of my main clients, it's a big French company that I won't name, I invited the team for a team building day in Provence, and we rented some old cars, de chevaux. We had this pétanque tournament, and we finished the day with a gaming night, board games and video games. And in that team of 10 people, there were 2 new employees, 2 girls. During the day, they were really kind to each other, to the others, very sympathetic. You see me coming. During the board games and the video games, they were cheaters, total cheaters. They just wanted to win, okay? And they were in front of their boss. So that's what games can show and reveal about the people. Let me test you. I don't know, do you consider yourself as gamers? Who considers himself as a gamer? Okay? Hardcore gamers? Okay? No life players? No one? Okay. Answer this one. So what do you think is the world's most sold good, cultural good? So cultural good, it can be a movie, a book, or a game. In France, the video games are classified as cultural goods. So what do you think is the first? No, a game. I want a game. Minecraft, no. Monopoly, no. Sorry? No, GTA is the most profitable game ever. Scrabble, no. FIFA, it's very basic. Okay? So that's the world of games, in the turnover of the games that are sold in the world. Another question? What game do you think generates the... It's not Fortnite. Fortnite is 4th or 5th for the moment. It will become the first maybe next year, but not for the moment. LOL, yes, it's League of Legends. Who plays League of Legends here? Okay, I have some gamers. Great. That's the game which generates the most revenue for players. So when you are a professional gamer, You can expect to earn the most money from League of Legends or Dota. And after that, Rainbow Six, you know those games, those first-person shooters. So FIFA generates turnover, but if you want to earn money as a gamer, you can play those games. Okay, but gamification is not gaming. So I won't tell you how to create a game today. That's not the point. Gamification is about engagement. So the key word I want you to keep in mind is engagement. That's all about engagement today. What we can take from games is that they have techniques, specific techniques that create a real, pure, intense, powerful engagement, and that's what we will see today. So it's not, or very rarely, a game. But before we start, I want you to understand also the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Because if you are startups, if you are UX designers, if you are programmers, you are building interfaces, you are building products, and you want your people, your users to be engaged and to do everything you want them to do, okay? But if their motivation is extrinsic, you will have a first problem. What is an extrinsic motivation? It's what you are doing something, you are doing an activity, not because you like the activity for itself, but because you want something else, okay? You are studying because you want your degree or diploma, not because you like to study. You are waiting 1 hour at the Burger King, not because you like to wait, but because you want your Whopper. Those are examples of extrinsic motivation.
Since Burger King came back to France in 2014, every opening looked like a never-ending Beatles concert. To get your burger, you have to wait and wait and wait. People have been patient, but after a few months, they began to be angry and complain about the queue. So we created Whopper Fast Pass, a mobile game to entertain you while you wait and to skip the line if you win. Whopper Fast Pass is the first mobile game you can win only if you're geo-localized while queuing at Burger King. The game is simple. You only need to choose your meal and then defend it as long as you can against the swarm of hungry hands. In a few months, with less than 20 restaurants and no meat...
Okay, it was a success. It was created by a Parisian agency and copied by the Americans, this fast-pass game. The game is stupid. It's a very basic game, but that's not the point. While you are waiting in the queue, and I saw that in Marseille at the airport, not all the people will play the game, maybe just 5 or 6 in the queue, but all the others will go around them, and the winner who accesses the fast pass is applauded by everyone. Okay? So in 5 minutes' time, you totally change the atmosphere and you create something special that makes you forget about the queue. That's the point. And that's how you manage extrinsic motivation. You play distraction. You try to distract people from an activity they don't like, or they don't want to do, or they don't see the point to do it. This is also what we call the nudge effect. Have you heard about the nudging? Someone of you? Okay. Nudge effect is try to have someone doing something without telling him or her what you expect from him or her. Okay? The nudge. Example, we all saw this old movie. It was made maybe 13 years ago by Volkswagen in Stockholm. So they changed the stairs into a piano, and you have 66% more people taking the stairs. Believe me, if you put a poster at the bottom of the stairs saying, for your health, think about taking the stairs, you will have no one, okay? It works better. I'll give you another example, more recent. Normally when you see that, you should feel in your body that you want to take the stairs. Normally. Okay, that's also the nudge. I have another weird example for the guys, for the men. This is also the nudge effect. Okay? This small fly who is there is to help you to target. And it works very well. But by chance, your motivation can also be intrinsic, which means that you are doing something because you like to do it. Okay? That's what happens when you are starting running. Even if you never run in the past, you start running every Sunday, and after a few Sundays, you want to improve yourself. So what will happen, like 72% of the amateur runners in Europe, you will, by yourself, spontaneously, you will look for an app to be self-motivated. This is why all those people are downloading Nike Plus, Runkeeper, etc. Who is using one of those apps? Garmin. Raise your hands, please. Okay. So there are sports guys here. It's good. Who knows this one?
Don't look back. They're right behind you. Just keep running.
So it's a game where you have to run because you are pursued by zombies.
You might be getting too valuable.
Maybe you heard about Zombie Run. It's a huge success in the States, not here. Zombie Run is a game where you have a city. The city is destroyed by zombies, and then you have objectives. And the only way to rebuild your city, to get credits to rebuild your city, is to start running. Everything happens in the headset. There is an off voice, and the off voice tells you where are the zombies and how you can avoid them. And if you are running too slow, you hear the zombies behind you. Okay? So I like this example because if you are a sport guy, you will like Zombie Run for fun, but you will come back to the other apps. Why? Because they are performance trackers. And because your motivation is intrinsic, so you want to improve your performance. If you're not a sport guy like me, I like Zombie Run, because at the moment, you're just forgetting that you're running. Because you're in the game. That's what happened with Pokemon Go. Millions of people walked kilometers and kilometers to raise their Pokemons, not because they like to walk. Okay? That's how you use gamification when you are in front of extrinsic motivation. So just to conclude these points, intrinsic motivation, remember that you are looking for a purpose, an objective. You want to master something because you like it and you want to improve yourself in an activity. And when the motivation gets extrinsic, you are looking for something outside the activity. A reward, a wage, a salary, a diploma, or you want to avoid a punishment. That's also external. Okay? I met people that are building a startup just because on Friday night they want to tell to their parents they have a startup. Okay? That's totally extrinsic. And this is how we build this gamification curve that I invite you to keep in mind, because it says that when the motivation is too much extrinsic, very, very extrinsic, don't come with a game. If you have a team you want to manage with play, and the atmosphere is very bad, they all hate you, they all hate the company, they hate the project, they are not motivated at all, don't come as a manager and say, hey, I have an idea, let's do a game. Okay? That's too far. If you have a team that is mainly motivated for intrinsic reasons, you can have gamification at play, but you have to distract them. That's what I wanted to show you in the example. On the opposite side, when you have a team that is full motivated, they want to achieve something, they like what they do, don't come with the distraction game. It's a loss of time. Come with performance play. They will accept it. Of course, the problem is when in a same team, you have motivated and not motivated people. Good luck. That's what we have to face all the time with our clients and projects. So we saw a few words about motivation. Now we can go inside gamification. And I like to start with the player's journey, because it's very easy to understand that it's totally the same of the client journey or the user journey. If you take this angle, it will almost always work, because it starts with a phase, the identification phase. It's when you ask for a login, you ask for a subscription within your interface. And this identification phase is the first engagement phase. And that's an opportunity because it's sometimes and often forgotten by UX designers or designers. They think that this identity phase must be skipped as fast as possible because you want the users to use the application or the service. It's a mistake, because when you use identification as an avatarization opportunity, you will get the first engagement points. I give you an example. You are playing squash or badminton with your friends on Wednesday nights. Before starting playing, you just have a new outfit, okay? You go to the dressing room to change yourself. This moment, identification is the first engagement moment, because you like what you wear. You are dressed as the squash player. You're not the same guy than 5 minutes ago. You're the squash player. You're motivated because you have a new outfit. Okay? We are in an avatar world. You are not the same person on LinkedIn, on Snapchat, on Facebook. You have different ways to express yourself and to show who you are, like in all applications. So this is a very interesting moment to attack and to consider when you are building interfaces. The second moment for the players is the onboarding phase. It's very, very, very important, because what we see in games is that if you miss this onboarding phase, you will also lose your players. And in lots of applications, that's the same problem. You have to have successes at the very beginning of the use of the app, which means that the onboarding phase is not totally a learning phase. That's not the point. It's more a discovery phase. Let's imagine you are starting playing golf, and you are going to the golf court for the first time. You are welcomed by your teacher, and it tells you a lot of words that you don't know, the words, typical words from the golf vocabulary. You have a golf club in your hands. You are feeding the grass. All those impressions are part of your onboarding experience. Of course, you are starting to learn to play golf during 1 hour or 2 hours, but the point is, do you like it? Are you engaged enough to take 20 hours of additional lessons to go into the game, like in an application? And then you can start the scaffolding phase. It's when you decided that this activity is for you, and you want to spend time, and you want to learn, and you want to improve yourself. You decided to set up a phone banking app. You identified yourself. Have you noticed that in the phone banking apps, they ask you to put your picture? They didn't do that in 3 years or 4 years ago. It's more fresh than we think. Why? Because we like to avatarize everything. You don't need to have your picture on your phone app for banks. I mean, it's secured. It's only you that will see the app normally. You don't share it with friends, but still you want your picture on it. That's the identification phase. Then you start using it, but after a few attempts, you don't like it, you can stop it totally. So the onboarding phase is very important. And then you become a regular user. And this is interesting because what we see in the learning of apps and interfaces is that the people are always following the same cycle, like this. They go from stage to stage. We don't learn on a unilateral way. We learn stage by stage, which means that, and we see that in games, when we have a certain level of mastery, we like to stop. And we like to take advantage of what we learned. And we like to repeat and repeat and repeat what we learned. If you play FIFA, and you discovered how to score a goal with a special technique, you want to play 3, 4, 5 matches to repeat it, because you enjoy what you learned. This is how it works. If you try to make people learn every time, all the time, new things and to become more skilled, you take the risk to lose them very easily. So allow them to enjoy those stages of growth and learning. And finally, it depends on the game. You can integrate the game and play it all the time. You can integrate an app and play and use it all the time. Or you can stop it for good reasons, because the scenario makes that the game stops, or you don't need it anymore because the service is ended. But when you stop the game here, normally it's a failure. It means that you missed something. Okay? Good.
As before,
what's that game?
It seeks to annihilate everything that we hold dear.
Yes, WoW.
I go to face...
Who plays WoW? Who played? Played. It's an old-fashioned game, I know. 12 million players. I like to mention this game because it's one of the most studied games in gamification. Why? Because in this game and all the MORP games, MORP are multi-massive online role-playing games. You know those games when you close your computer, the game continues without you. That's one of the elements of those games. In those games, you have different ways to enjoy the game. You can enjoy the social part of the game, you can enjoy the achievement you will find in it, you can enjoy the fighting against the others, or you can also enjoy the exploration of territories and etc., which makes this game very complete. And there is another reason why I mentioned this game. World of Warcraft is the game generating the biggest number of no-life players. That's WoW. And why is it WoW and not Counter-Strike or League of Legends? Why do you think this game and those kind of games in particular, they generate so many no-life players? The fear of missing when you go to sleep. It's not that. That's one of the points, but it's not that. You're improving your character, you're achieving something. In World of Warcraft, the avatar is very, very accurate, and you have levels very accurate. It's very enjoyable to see the character, but it's not that. It's not the never-ending thing. It's social. It's because those games are very social. In World of Warcraft, you are part of a guild, and it's so mature in guild management that you always have a role to play. And you are always related to the others. And if you stop playing, if you quit the game, you are putting someone into trouble. I interviewed a guy in the United States. He's going to the schools because he was a no-life player playing WoW. He was the head of a guild of 530 players. He was the boss. And when he talked about those players, it was his family. And he was always feeling guilty when he went to sleep because he had to manage them and to help them to improve and to grow. It was a social game. And if you see the addiction to Fortnite, to take Fortnite, it's becoming social. I mean, the hardcore players of Fortnite, they are talking and chatting all the time when they play. Overwatch is the same. You talk a lot. Those are social games, and the people that don't know video games, they tend to forget about that. They say, "Oh, my son, my teenager, is spending 10 hours per day playing Overwatch. He's totally unsocialized." It's not true. It's a different way to socialize. I'm not telling it's good or bad, but you can't tell. It's not socializing. Okay. What can we find in games that can teach us something about interfaces and UX and building an application? In most games, not all games, if you play Lego blocks, you don't have objectives, okay? The creative games, they don't have objectives. But in most games, you will find clear objectives. In the real world, most of the time, you don't have real objectives, and you want it. You are begging for clear objectives from your management, from your family, from your friends, and we don't have it. We don't have the rules of living a life. In games, we have that. When you have objectives, it's very easy to have an indicator of your progression, the score. And I will talk much more about the score just later, but the score is very, very important. In games, and of course, obviously, in video games, you can have a very fantastic storytelling. But in real life too, and I will come back to that also later. In games, the feedback is direct. That's also something we miss in the real world. When you are doing something great in your company, in your job, you would like someone to appear and say, "Hey, that was great," all the time. But it won't happen, okay? In games, it will. And in games, the rewards are predictable, and if they are not predictable, the unpredictability is part of the scenario of the game, and you know that sometimes you will win something if you do something great. Okay, that's also very important. If you combine all of this, if you can have a management that use all those techniques, you will probably have a motivated team in most of the cases. Gamification is a very strange word because when I meet people that know nothing about gaming, they think that I talk about games. They think that I am only building games, which I'm not doing. When I talk with people that knows a lot about gamification, I have another problem because there are so many failures, there are so many mistakes about gamification that they don't believe it anymore. So I'm always in between. What I'm doing is I'm attacking processes. That's my passion. processes that are boring and that can be less boring or becoming engaging thanks to gamification. I'll give you an example. I believe that someday Microsoft Excel will be gamified. It has to, okay? Because when you are creating your first macro, okay, you should be rewarded. You should be celebrated. We all know that, the first time you do it. And Excel should awake and say, hey, level 4. You're one of the top 10% that knows how to create a macro. That's not that stupid. I mean, it makes sense. And the way you show it, it can be very fancy or it can be very serious. That's not the problem. It can be very serious, a business style. But you have to know it, okay? If you're an achiever, we see the profiles just later, but if you're an achiever, you want to know that you did something that is part of your achievement. And you want to know the next step. So Excel should say, by the way, you just really finished your macro, here is the next technique you should master to reach the 5%, the top 5%, okay, or the level 5. Okay, so this is why I like to talk about human-focused design in addition to gamification, because it's not very sexy. If I say this is a conference about human-focused design, I have no one, but it tells you something. So what happens in most cases when you are building an application or software, you have a functional perspective. You are creating a list of functions and you say, okay, my app should do that. I have a list. If you take Google Maps, that's a functional app mainly. And this is why Waze took 67 million users from Google Maps, because they did something more human-focused, thanks to gamification. So in Waze, not today, but at the beginning of Waze, the levels contributed to the success of Waze. 80% of the users of Waze are telling that they like the levels. Only 7% are using it. Okay? And this is very, very important. When you start an activity, a software, a use of something, you have two phases. You have the naive phase and you have the expert phase. When you are in the naive phase, you believe that you will do everything, that you will use all the functionalities, that it's something very engaging but very evanescent. And when you're in the master phase, you are very concerned about the efficiency of what you are doing. Let me explain. Are you all on LinkedIn? Okay. Do you remember the first experience on LinkedIn when you subscribed? Maybe it was a few years ago. This is the naive phase. When you're welcomed at LinkedIn, you're welcomed as weak. You have a progress bar, and you're welcomed as weak. And in 20 minutes' time, you're all-star. Because you have 7 levels, but what they want from you is to fill the forms and to get a break-even point where they know you won't come back. So they are just celebrating all the successes to be sure that you reach level 4, which means I have 100 contacts, I have some recommendations, my profile is totally complete, I won't lose time on another network, I will stay on LinkedIn. That's the naive phase. But if LinkedIn talks to you like that after 2 years of use, it won't work. You have to enter a cycle that is an expert cycle, which exists also on LinkedIn. I will give you some examples. Too easy. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody knows. Okay, there are 4 main fields for gamification. The daily life of a human being, training and management, management of people, management of humans, interfaces and UX, and marketing. There are applications that are gamified everywhere. You have now applications to raise your kids or raise your dog. You have applications to quit smoking that are gamified. It's everywhere. Human management, I talked already a lot about that. I don't like escape games. Instead, in one application that it's really, really fascinating to see how it works. You have now big companies that are doing escape games for recruitments. Okay? So instead of having a classical interview, they put you in an escape room with 5 unknown people. You are all candidates. And after 1 hour, we know who's who. who's the leader, who's the cheater, etc., etc. It's a good and a bit tricky recruitment test. Interfaces. Maybe you saw the toothbrushes that are gamified with games for kids. This is Colibri, it's a Parisian startup. So they have captors in the toothbrush, and you can play 2 games. This is the game for the 5 to 7 years old, and they have rabbits, you know, lapin crétin, games for the teenagers. It works very well, but it's all, again, a nudge effect. So they start brushing their teeth better than before, and after a few games, they stop the game, but they brush their teeth better. So that's the objective is reached thanks to the nudge effect. This is the Symbiose. It's a Renault. When Renault built this autonomous car, they didn't call IBM or, I don't know, Microsoft, a big software company. They called Ubisoft. Okay, it's a sign. And they say, hey, I have a new car, please make it fun. So Ubisoft is creating all the interfaces inside the car to create a new enhanced experience. So when you're in such car and you have 400 kilometers to do without driving, they can launch a blind test inside the car, okay, on the windows, and you have music and blind tests starting in the cars. And marketing, of course, that's why where gamification is the most often mentioned. Loyalty programs are more and more gamified. Starbucks is always the same example, but I also like Pink Nation from Victoria's Secret for teenagers. They have games and games and games in a loyalty and achievement program. So are you a smart girl or not? And they have some programs related to that. Okay, so we saw the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We saw the player's journey, and now, I would like to ask you a question. So I don't know if you're doing sport or not. I don't care. But let's imagine that you are not that sportive, and you are running 5 kilometers every Sunday here in Paris with friends. Okay, and this Sunday the weather is brilliant. There is sun, and one member of the group says, "Oh, what if we do the 20 kilometers of Paris in 6 months together?" Okay? And everybody in the group says, yes, let's do it. Let's imagine yourself in that group. What do you think will keep you motivated during those 6 months? Do you think you will stay motivated because you want to have more fun with your friends, because you will train more? So instead of going every Sunday, you would maybe go running 3 times a week. And you like your friends, you have fun with them, so that's what you want, okay? 1. Second, you enjoy running, and you feel you have something in your legs, you want to improve yourself, and you have a personal target, you want to make it in less than 1 hour and a half. Second, you don't know anything, you know nothing about the marathon running world, so you want to experiment something totally new and to meet those people, those strange people that are doing races. Or you don't want to be ridiculous, you don't want to be the last of the group, okay, at least, or maybe you want to be the best of your group. Who feels to be more 1? I'm surprised. Who feels to be more 2? I'm not surprised. Who feels to be more 3? Okay, and 4? Okay. That's the first time I have more 4 than 1. It's totally not normal. It's one of the kind of questions you will find in the Bartle test. Richard Bartle created a test that helps you to identify the 4 big families of players, of human beings, because I think we are all gamers. Not video games, but we are all reactive to challenges or to social play, or we are all gamers, okay? Board games, card games, sports, those are all games. Even a business can be seen as a game. What are those 4 families? There are about 2 axes. The human beings, they want to master or they want to adapt. They want to master to what? To the activity or the game or the job, or they want to master the others or to adapt to the others. Okay? According to that, Let's say you want to master the others. You're a fighter. You like and you look for competition. Okay, it's in you. For familiar reasons, I don't want to be Freudian here, but it exists, okay? Because I see a lot of companies telling we don't want competition, internal competition anymore. But that's not what we learn from games. I'm sorry, but most games are using competition as a trigger. Even when you play belote, there are winners and losers at la belote. Okay? It's like this. And if you don't have a winner and a loser at la belote, it's not funny. So, sorry, but competition exists and it can be a motivation tool. But if you are a fighter, you can like the competition for itself, so you like to respect rules, or you can, like in my example with my clients, you can be a killer, okay, or a griefer, which means that what you want is only the victory. Doesn't matter how. You enjoy the victory for the victory. When you're a competitor, you won't like the victory if someone has cheated, or if you have cheated yourself. The second category, okay, it's too easy to say the people are like that, like that. I'm not in this. What I'm looking here, what I'm trying to find here is the different ways to score things. That's what's important, because we are not stuck in one profile. We are a combination of 2 or 3 profiles, and it changes all the time. If you don't like competition, but if you are in a survival environment, you will become a competitor. If you like competitor, and you are in a very kind environment where no one is liking competition, you will stop liking competition, okay? So we change. The kids are much more explorers than we are adults. So we change. That's not my point. I don't want to classify people in boxes, but those are the different ways to score things. And in your interfaces, in your products, it's very important to know them. So the achievers, and we are all achievers, at least partly, we like to improve. We like to see that we are doing better than previously. They can be collectioners, and we all have friends like that. So when they start activities, and each time they start something, they want to be good at it. Okay, you start to learn Chinese cooking, and after a few weeks you are a very good Chinese cook because you are an achiever. You want to become the best, okay? The best you can for yourself, not to be compared to the others. What they like, the achievers, so collectioners or experts, when they find an activity they want to focus on, what they like the most is levels, okay? And in gamification, what I like the most also is levels, because when you are building a long-term strategy with gamification, you have to build levels, okay? Because you will fix an objective, and if this objective is very ambitious, the levels are the way to cut this objective into steps. That's as easy as that. The third family, the explorers, is very rare. In this battle test, you have less than 5% of the people that are mainly explorers. Because those people, they like to change all the time. They like innovation, they like to change jobs, they like to change countries, they like to test new things all the time. So they are navigators, or they like to challenge everything. They are hackers. That exists. They like to if you say something, now it's not necessarily true, I want to show you another way to do it, okay? Very interesting to have an innovator or detective in your team, because it will help to shake things. But when you have explorers in your team, it's also very, very hard to manage. You have to surprise them all the time. It's not that easy. And last but not least, I keep this one for the end, because in this test, and I see that with my clients too and our users, so we have for the moment more than 20,000 users in our apps, employees and people in companies. This is the main profile, or the main way to score. Socializing. And there is also the main mistake in gamification, and maybe in life, because when you face a socializer, it means that they don't take too much importance on the score for itself, the performance score. What is more important for the socializers is the interaction with the others, okay? They value more the interaction with the others. And when you ask them what it means, they will tell you that they are, sorry, I don't need this one, that they are coaches, which means that they are helping the others, which also means in terms of score, that their score is a generosity score. They value the quantity of help they can give, even if they don't do that consciously, if they do that without knowing it, they do it, okay? But the problem is that they are all telling that they are coaches, but they are not coaches. Only 10-15% of the people are real coaches. They want to help. I'll give you an example. You have a new employee joining your team. No one is asking you, but you are welcoming this new employee and you are giving your time to help this new employee. And during 3 weeks, you are every day spending 30 minutes, 1 hour to help this guy or this girl. And after 3 weeks, all the colleagues says, "Oh, Barbara, she's just joined us, she's great, she's learned everything." And you know it's because of you, or partly because of you. That's your coach score, okay? But the socializers, they are rock stars. So they will tell you that they are coaches, but what they want is the affection, the attention, the look of the others. They want to be seen. And thanks for my presentation, the social networks show you how it works. I mean, we are polluted by a rock star. We are probably partly rock stars ourselves. So we want to score the influence we have on others. That's a mistake because it's not the same way to score things. You see a clear difference, and you have to know it in your interfaces and in your strategies. Oh, who plays this game? What game is it? The name? Perudo. It's I don't know this year, but last year it was the most sold board game in France. Perudo. It's very addictive. Okay. I think you have some basics you can already use in your jobs or developments, but this is more precise, more accurate. Yukaishu, so if you have one book to buy, it's this one, Actionable Gamification. It gives you 8 levers that I will mention that are allowing gaming techniques you can use in your daily activities. The first lever, the epic meaning, is very, very important. It means that you can be more engaged if what you are doing, you are partly or totally doing it because it's above you. It's not for you, it's above you. What's this game? French game. Assassin's Creed, okay. You see that the video games, they are spending millions and millions to create those short video animations, splash animations before you start playing. Why? Because it gives you a sense of epic story. Even when you play Mario, you have the princess is kidnapped by Bowser, and you have this video at the beginning, and you see that Mario has to free the princess. That's the storytelling, and that's epic meaning building. Okay, that's video games, so it's totally fictional, but in real life it also exists. When you are working for Volvo, for example, Volvo is a car manufacturer that has built all its storytelling about security and safety of the drivers and the passengers. And they are known for that, and they are believed for that by the clients, but also by the employees. So when you know that, you are working for Volvo, when you come back at home, you can tell your family, you can tell your parents that you're very proud to work for Volvo because it's not only a job, it's also saving lives. That's what they do. And if you work for Tesla, that's the same. If you are a Tesla employee, you are a humanity hero. And they will tell you. Okay? So it's putting some epic meaning in your activity. And it will help to have more engagement. A very basic example. Let's say that you are a scientist, you are a biologist, and for one book you are writing, you are going to Wikipedia. And you see an article, and this article is full of mistakes. You want to correct it. And you will do it for free and anonymously. Why? Because it's above you. That's epic meaning, again. When I was 6, I received a visit of a guy from Coca-Cola. And my parents woke me up because I was sleeping, and I go to the living room, and this guy, in my remembering, took a long time to explain to me that he was about to ask me questions, and those questions were very important, because I have the power to decide if we launch or not the Cherry Coke in Belgium. And I was 6, and I felt so important. Okay? And I talked about this story the week after, all my friends in the school, etc. So Coca-Cola were smart to introduce this basic survey with a storytelling and epic meaning before we start. So behind that, what you feel is that you can create a sense of elitism that is part of your engagement. You're part of a group. If you're an Apple addict, you're part of the Apple innovators addicts. If you are biking a Harley Davidson, you're a rebel using a Harley Davidson. All those group effects are there to create some elitism impression or humanity hero impression. Okay. The plugging, you know the phenomenon of plugging? You know what it is? So it's when you run, but you're also cleaning the dirt while you run. That's epic meaning. You're not running only for yourself. You come back at home, and you're very happy because you run 5 or 10 kilometers, but you also save the planet. Okay. In this elitism thing, you have a gaming technique that is very, very easy to understand. It's used a lot of time, the beginner's luck. If you play a freemium game on your smartphone like Candy Crush or Clash Royale, you will have a lot of luck at the beginning. Of course. And you have a lot of successes at the beginning. It's like you are going to play bowling with friends. You don't like bowling at all. You are going because they want you to go with them. And at the first ball, strike. Second ball, strike. Okay? Oh, maybe the bowling is not a bad sport. Maybe you will like it. Okay? Because you have a lot of successes. And maybe you are some of the best players or beginners of bowling ever. That's what Candy Crush will tell you, or Angry Birds or the others. So that's the first core drive, and I don't know how much time I have. What time is it? What time is it? Merci. Good. The second one, so I introduce it as a profile or as a way to score, but it's also a lever because that's the basic of gamification, achievement, progression. So it's when you are doing something and you see clearly a path of progression and what is the next step to improve yourself. That's also what we call in gamification the PBL method, so points, badges, levels, leaderboards. And this is when I can start talking about points. I don't talk about points before because the best way to introduce points is to put them into a perspective. First, you need a very big objective. Let's come back to Volvo. As they succeeded in building this storytelling about the safety of passengers and drivers, what did they do 2 years ago? They launched a 2020 plan. They declared that there will be no death in Volvo in 2020. That's the big plan for the company. So we will be the safest car ever, and there will be no death in Volvos anymore. That's very, very ambitious. But once you have this epic meaning very strong, you can start to have quantified objectives, levels and score, and points. It's always better to have points between two levels, and it's always better to have levels when you have a supra objectives, and it's always better to have an objective when you have an epic meaning, if you understand the process. I had clients that started with points. What they are doing is pointification. Pointification means nothing, okay? It can be fun during 2 hours, but at a certain moment, it's just not funny anymore, it ends. So try to find a sense of achievement, a purpose, and then it's very, very easy, or much more easier to cut it into levels and points. Points are not that easy to use because there are variations. The points can be accumulated or they can be exchanged. If you exchange your points, you transform your points into a currency. That's another driver we can use, and we can create acquisition and buyings within the activity. The points can be total or intermediate. When I play Flipper at my business school, they were the best score of the day and the best score of the month. It's a good idea because you try to outpass the score of the day before attacking the score of the month. The points can be up and down, and that's another mistake in gamification, in business gamification, because I have some clients that are human resources directors or managers. They don't want the points to go down. It's a mistake. It's not, there is no good video games without a game over. There is no good video games without frustration. You have to learn how to manage this frustration to make it positive for engagement. So sometimes it's very good to have points going down. I give you an example. I give a UX course in Aix-en-Provence for designers. They are not competitors. They are not fighters. They are designers, okay? They are peers. They are artists. It's okay. But I make them working by groups because they are socializers, purely. And what I say, if they are late at my lesson in the morning, it's 5 points penalty for the group. That's excellent because they don't want to penalize the group. If I just tell them about their individual progression, it won't work. Okay, so sometimes penalties are very good. And when you turn your points into a currency, you can have parallel currency. It's very practical. And once again, if you take a look at the freemium games, you always have one key currency and one fake currency at least. So you have the coins, or the gold coins, and you have the shells. And when you start playing, you are very happy because you just earned 50,000 coins. Say, hey, I'm very strong. And then you start realizing that it's not valuable at all. You need gems, or you need shells, or you need stars. Okay? And having those two currencies helps you to have very easy, fast successes, which are very important in the onboarding and naive phase. Okay, let's go back to levels. You see the levels everywhere. Have you noticed that when you are doing a check-in at a restaurant with Google or Facebook, you have levels? Have you noticed that? They started 1 year ago. Even dating apps or websites, they have levels. Mythic, Affinity, etc. They have levels. Let's go back to LinkedIn just to illustrate how you can manage it. So in the naive phase, they launched 8 years ago the progress bar. And as I told you, you start with the weak attributes, and you can very easily go up to the all-star attribute. They stopped it, and they replaced it by this new one. It's almost the same, but it was improved. How was it improved? Yes? Yeah. And you see the levels. So the levels are much more obvious. You have 7 levels. What else? Sorry? Yes? Intermediate, but it's more than intermediate. It's more powerful than that. This is very, very strong. So it's a milestone unlock. This is a power weapon you can use in almost all strategies. Because it says to you, you are about to unlock something. They can tell you what it is, but they decided not to tell you. It's a surprise. Okay? Actually, what you will unlock is very basic. It's just the filter in schools. When you're looking for contacts, you will filter by schools. Okay? But when you are at level 3 and you want to exit LinkedIn, you are just very close to the level 4, and that's what they want you to achieve because they know that after this level 4 you won't go back. They use the milestone unlock. Okay? There are different ways to use milestone unlock. I give you an e-commerce example. I bought a t-shirt in an e-sport website, Fanatic, it's a team of e-sport. I spent maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes to select the best t-shirt I wanted. And I finalize my buying, so I give my credit card, I confirm everything. And once it's done, hey, you unlocked something. You unlocked a very special t-shirt. So I bought it. And maybe we are 10% to buy it, or 2%, but it works. That's very well done, because I didn't expect this unlock. So it's a surprise milestone unlock. It also works. Okay. So if you have something valuable in your application or your interface, and you want the people to do something they don't want to do. I'll give you an example. I advise the company, startup in the banking, in the fintech company. So they are doing automatic savings, which means that when you are buying a coffee or drink in the pub, you can arrondir. You can round the amount of money, and the amount goes to your saving accounts. Okay. The problem is that if you want to subscribe to that, you spend a lot of time because it's legal. You have to take 10 minutes to send your identity card, etc. I gave them the example of Duolingo. Do you know Duolingo? It's an application to learn languages. They have a killer feature, that's the chatbot. The chatbot on Duolingo, they are gamified. You start a conversation with, for example, you are learning Spanish and you are welcomed by a taxi man in Madrid. So you are talking with the taxi guy. And if your sentence is good, you earn 2 points. If it's approximate, you earn 1 point. If you don't know what to say, you have a multiple choice and you earn 0 points. And you have a timer and you have 5 minutes to reach your hotel. And your taxi doesn't speak a word in French or English. Okay? That's a game. That's a conversation game. So we always say that the best way to learn a language is to talk and to chat. So that's a chat. And the best way to learn anything is to play. So when you play and chat to learn a language, it's a good way to do it. But that's not my point. That's the most valuable feature they have, and they decided to put it behind a milestone unlock. Why? Because the main problem with those language apps is that they ask you at the beginning, what is your Spanish level? Okay? And the people won't tell the right level. They will say, I'm very strong, and they are not. Or they will say, I'm very weak, and they are strong. So the exercises they will face are not at the right level. So they ask you to do a grammar test. It's a long one, to be sure that they know exactly your level. And that's the only way to unlock the chatbots. Okay? So you have a goal, and you are doing an effort to reach this goal. I will rush a bit. The third one, it's very easy to understand. It's my favorite because it's totally different. It's not about the score, it's about the creativity. And it's also because it's not used. Because it's very hard to create a strategy based on creativity. You have to change a lot of things all the time to surprise and to boost the creativity. Do you know that game? StarCraft. StarCraft is one of the games with the most accurate artificial intelligence. So when you play StarCraft, it's very hard to win 2 times a game with the same strategy, because the AI adapts itself. And this is why this game is studied, because it develops a part of your brain, very specific, where you adapt yourself to unknown environments. It's very useful. I hope that one day in business schools you will play games. Like in Korea, they started. So they started playing some specific games, like Warcraft. It's a management game also. When you have a team to manage, you can learn a lot of things, management skills within the game. The fourth drive, possession, is when you like to collect things. Because you have an item, it can be totally virtual, it has a value. And if the game or the app or the software tells you it's very rare, it has a huge value.
What was the net effect of the Niantic project? We had crossed a threshold in which global security could be at risk. Decrypting the data was the mistake.
Ingress is not psycho.
So Ingress was created. Ingress was it's augmented reality game. You have 2 factions, the green and the blue, and you have to conquer territories. So I arrived by the Gare de Lyon, and the Gare de Lyon is green for the moment. So the blue team has to conquer the Gare de Lyon back. They have to collect energy points, etc., etc. The team behind Ingress is Nianjin Software. That's the guys who created Pokemon with the same spots. So they started with Ingress, and when they launched Pokemon, it was with the same geographical spots than Ingress. So sorry to talk about Pokemon, but it's a collection game. It's a possession game. Catch them all. And when you have a collection strategy, it's always good to show the codex. So you have to show what I can expect to collect. Even if I will have some surprises, some unsuspected gifts or items, it's good to see what I can expect to build as a collection. And it's also good to have this beginner's luck and to receive a very rare item at the very beginning. So if you start a collection of, I don't know, beer cans, and you have a friend that knows that you started the collection, and he has a very, very rare beer can in his home, and it gives it to you. Your collection takes value, and your engagement takes also some engagement points. Okay? The other particularity of this strategy of collection, when you find people that are very reactive to it, is the grunt work. So, in those games, and only in those games, you can work for the game. My daughter, Alice, she plays the Smurf Village, and I told her, Alice, you are working for the Smurfs. Okay? She's planting carrots and etc., and she's raising carrots, and she's waiting 2 hours, and she checks if the carrots are raised. And she likes to work for the Smurfs, because that's the way to deserve the house for the big, for Papa Smurf. That's the mechanic in this game. Okay, if you look at The Sims, it's always the same. You work, and then you deserve to go to party, like in real life, or to buy a car. Okay, and this is also where you can use these exchangeable points techniques. I don't have time for that. Yeah, when you have something that you receive, but in addition you have to protect it, it's even stronger, of course. You have all those classrooms where you have a pet, a rabbit or a cat or something like that, and you know someone has deserved to go back to the home with the cat on Saturday and to come back at school. It's a responsibility. It's a possession, but also a responsibility. It works very well. Fifth lever, it's very important. I would say with the epic meaning, those are the 2 main levers that we use in our strategies. The social influence. And it's a bit weird, because it's about conformity, it's about popularity. I won't take a lot of time on conformities when people want to be like the others and they are afraid to be different. It can be very strong. And this is the survey on the bottlenecks on the roads. When you have in the queues, when you have 3 queues with more than 10 cars waiting, you see that no one is taking the 4th empty queue. Okay, it starts at 6, and after 13, 14, no one is taking the queue that is empty, because you don't want to take the risk to be ridiculous. That's conformity. Conformity works well in a mentorship way, but more for the mentor than for the mentoree. So when you start working for a company, you are motivated, and if they say, oh, Robert is there for 10 years, he will help you to succeed in your onboarding, you are a bit more motivated, because you want also not to disappoint Robert, but Robert is more motivated. Okay, so this conformity and coaching technique can work well in management. But this is more important, popularity. Black Mirror, yes. It was not a question. Everyone has saw... okay, you know this episode of Black Mirror? Okay, so she has a social score, and each time someone is giving her points, score evaluated, so it's a score, the maximum is 5, and she wants to go to a marriage of a friend. The flight is cancelled, and she thought she was at a level of points enough to take the next flight, but she's just below, and then everything starts going wrong. Okay, and she decrease, and at a moment she can't take the bus because she's a bad citizen. The social score is not good enough. And this is where I talk about the rockstar effect. The first time I heard about, I worked 3 years for the group that owns Tinder, and I heard this expression the first time in 2012. The rockstar effect, and you see that in social networks, it's when people are changing their behaviors because they feel they are popular. Okay? So they can stop unsubscribing, or they can start sharing content, etc. On Twitter, I don't have fresh data, but 2 or 3 years ago, the rockstar effect was around 300 followers. So when you have 300 followers, and on the other hand, you're only following 200 people, what we see, it's a curve, huh? you see that the people are sharing a lot more content, starting to share more, because they think they are popular. And you know that 300 followers is not being popular, but for my parents, having 4 likes on Facebook is being popular. So it depends on all the people, but that's the rockstar effect, okay? And on Tinder, at the very beginning, and only for the guys, not for the girls, but on 1,000 swipes, you just needed 20 swipes that are okay to stay motivated and to keep using the app. So 20 out of 1,000 at the beginning. It has probably changed today. You know the sparkles? Les flammes Snapchat? Yes? You know how it works? Can someone explain?
If you've been Snapchatting with a friend for like 7 days, you'll have 7 next to the flame, and it will be there will be the sablier, the hourglass, appearing when you haven't been snapping for close to 24 hours to incite you to be snapping to this person.
It's perv. Huh? When you are supposed to be a real friend of someone, so you have a lot of intercourses on Snapchat, a flame will appear, and the flame says, "Oh, you're officially friends now. Okay, we believe you are real, true friends." But to be sure of that, the flame will disappear after 24 hours if you're not sharing videos or photos together. Okay, it works very well with the teenagers. And I saw the same phenomenon in 2 groups of friends, totally different, they don't know each other. This teenage girl was going on holidays, and she asked her friend to keep a smartphone during the holidays, because she was not sure to have a good internet connection, and to manage the flames. So every evening, they are just sending pictures, not because they want to, but just because they want to see the flame on the screen. Okay. Let's get more positive. This is very important. When you have a team, when you want to motivate people, the group quests are almost always a good idea. So you group people and they have to succeed together. Or positively because they are winning together, or the other way, you will give a penalty to the team if you are not doing what you are asked to. Okay? Remember my students? It works both ways. Don't have time for that. The 6th lever, scarcity and curiosity, is very easy to understand. When something is rare or makes you curious, it creates engagement. Okay? Let's go back to Snapchat. You know the story of the conversations? They invented the small coach telling you that someone has received your message, you know, at the beginning of instant messaging. Then they invented the 3 points, telling you that someone is answering. Snapchat is sending you a push notification when someone is answering, which is totally disruptive, because even if you stopped chatting and you started working finally, you receive a notification. It just means that Kevin is starting to write something, okay? And you don't know why yet. That's curiosity. Okay, and you can create some scarcity moment like happy hours. Happy hours is just an artificial way to give value to things. So you say the second beer will be for free if you are going on Thursday night. This is a shopping center in Seoul. Once a day, the big promotion of the day, you have this solar panel, and you have a shadow on the floor, and you have to go at the right moment, at the right second, to take the QR code on the floor to have this huge promotion. That's creating scarcity in gamification. The torture breaks. You stop the player, you stop the user when he is at the top of motivation. Candy Crush. Who plays Candy Crush? Who will admit it? No one? Okay. Probably someone is playing Candy Crush there, but in Candy Crush, when you are playing for free, it changes all the time, and I think for the moment, if you play 6 successful games in a row, it stops, and you have to wait 20 minutes before playing again. They have different ways to turn you into a freemium player, into a paying player. This is the best way. This is how it works the best. They have referrals, they have promotions. This is working. 7 level, the unpredictability, also very easy to understand, is the level of the people that believe in fortune, in chance. It's not proved yet, but there are some studies that are showing that it's probably genetic. So if you are a casino player, or if you want to play against the chance, it's probably genetic. We have it or we don't have it. It's not clear enough, the science is not clear enough. But there is this test on the rats. The group A, they push on a button and they receive a piece of bread every time. I push the button, piece of bread. Push the button, piece of bread. After a moment, they stop. It's for sure, it's okay. The group B, it's totally random. They push, nothing, they push, they can have 4 pieces of bread at the same time. They become crazy, they never stop. Clack, 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 clack. Unpredictability. Give you another example. You go to your bakery, okay, like every morning, and you go to buy your bread, and they propose you a loyalty card. So after 10 breads, you have 1 for free, okay, very classical. Or you can activate a wheel of fortune. Oh. What will you choose? Who's for the wheel? Okay, there is a study, 6 out of 10 will choose the wheel. What is funny, in the same study, amongst those 6 out of 10, after the first failure, if they don't succeed, 9 of 10 will come back to the loyalty card. Human being. What game did it invent? A long time ago. Tetris, yeah. I like to talk about those games because they are special. Those are instant winning games. It's a very special category because what happens with Candy Crush, who's the grandson of Tetris and those games, every 2, 3, 4 seconds, you have a success. Okay? You know where to put the brick. And what happens in your brain? You generate a very small amount of dopamine because you succeeded something. That's the first step. After 20, 25, 30 minutes, depends on the people, what happens in your brain? This section that is working tells all the others, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm very successful here. I'm very busy, so you can stop what you're doing. Please, I'm in charge. Okay? This is why those games, when you play in the subway, you can forget more easily the environment. And this is also why they are used to treat the post-traumatic syndromes. So when you have flashes because you had an accident and you have nightmares at night, there are some hospitals in the USA that are treating you with Tetris and Candy Crush. Okay, you play a lot of games and the flashes are replaced. So you don't see a death corpse, you see a Tetris game in your brain. I don't know if it's better, but it works. And last level, the loss and the avoidance, is when you don't have really something, but you feel like you can lose it. Okay? In Diablo, this game, not in the current version, but previously, every hour you have this treasure goblin coming and appearing, but it was random. You don't know when it will come, but it will come once an hour. And it's very important because this monster is very easy to beat, and when you beat the treasure goblin, you get a lot of coins, gold coins. Okay? What they did, the first hour, it's very strange because it never comes before 40, 45, 50, 55 minutes. So you're playing the game, and after 32 minutes you want to stop, but you know that the goblin is coming once an hour. So you will lose it if you stop. Okay? Like in the coupons. So you have a 30 euros coupon for the Fnac, but you have to spend it before Sunday night. What your brain can tell you on Monday morning is that you just lost 30 euros if you don't spend it. Okay? That's a trap, of course, but that's marketing gamification. You know the Wall Street bars, cafés?
C'est un concept où les prix des boissons varient toutes les 100 secondes, comme à la bourse.
That's the same lever. So when you order a beer with your group, the price of the beer will increase. It's offer and demand. Okay? So when you see that the price of the beer is low, you have to buy it now. That's a process. It's well done. Okay. To conclude, this is what I like to tell about gamification. I have so much more to tell, but in 1 hour and something. But to put that into perspective, we are facing a much more new way to provide experiences that are increasing engagement to your clients or users. We are in a period of big data, and big data means hyper-personalization, hyper-customization. You can have one message for one people, like we were always promised that one-to-one marketing for years as marketeers. It's happening now, really. The second revolution is the cognitive science. You can influence people. I don't talk about the cognitive bias today, but you notice that gamification is partly manipulation also. You try to influence people through gamification or through cognitive bias. Gamification is about hyper-engagement. Try to find it. Augmented reality is about living sensorial experiences, and we are using augmented reality to create new gamification tools or actions. And finally, the artificial intelligence coupled with vocal assistants or chatbots shows us new ways to use gamification. So those 5 revolutionary things that are happening now at the same time are all working together. I mean, they are all opportunities to create new ways to interact with the customers. Okay, that's it. Do you have questions?
Que la famille